Thank you, Senator Markey. Thank you, everyone, again, for joining us. I think it would be remiss if we didn't mention, I think, of the generational dynamic that this challenge represents. I think one thing that's really important as well is that in the Civilian Climate Corps bill that Senator Markey and I have introduced, there is no age limit to participation. I think this is incredibly important because it represents the economy. It's reflective of the economy that we are now growing up into. Especially during the pandemic, people have fallen out of unemployment into long-term unemployment, which does require these kinds of interventions in order to get people ramped back into the economy again. But specifically from a generational dynamic, young people, the last time that our generation and that I personally witnessed a thriving economy was during the 90s when we were kids. Then the dot-com bust happened, 9/11 happened shortly after that. We were raised in a decade of war, in an impending climate crisis. And then from there, a catastrophic recession that most working people never fully recovered from. We were told to go to school and to get a good job, and that $250,000 of student loan debt would easily pay itself off. And then after that, if you wanted a job and go to graduate school, another $250,000 is what would create economic opportunity for you. And we graduate into a recession as we watch our country go up in flames or drown in rising sea levels. A Civilian Climate Corps, and so the question that we have is we have a student loan crisis, a housing crisis, a climate crisis. How on earth can we possibly overcome this? And I think one of the ways that we overcome it is by being one of the most unionized workforces and unionized generations in American history. By collecting our power as workers in the economy, we can take our futures back. And what's important about a Civilian Climate Corps is that it is an on-ramp and can function as an on-ramp to unionization and to when we plug this in with union labor. But it's going to require putting us to work in the externalities of climate change, in reforesting land, in carbon mitigation, but also in resiliency and in the justice work. You know, planting trees, this isn't volunteer work. It's how we put the carbon back in the ground. It's how we actually take our future back into our own hands. But Chevron is not going to make those jobs. We as a public and as a people have to make those jobs, which is why I think this investment in a climate corps is so crucially important. It's doing the work to draw down, which is not profitable, but it is beneficial. And so all of that is to say is that in also looking at the other jobs that we need to do, we need to look at where unjust jobs and unjust labor is coming from right now. In California wildfires, we're using prison labor. By all forms and by all by many advocates, slave labor, uncompensated labor, and we're sending imprisoned people to go fight wildfires. And these people are nobly, while incarcerated by this country, saving the lives of others. But it shouldn't have to be that way. And it's also not enough. It's also not enough. I mean, that labor force was completely exhausted last year as well. So we need to mobilize people to save our own lives. And I think that's really what this is all about. And I sincerely thank the senator for hosting this forum, and I sincerely thank each and every one of you for really leading the work and hopefully making this happen. Thank you.
So thank you, Congresswoman.